Hello and welcome to this episode of the QI podcast. I am your host, DJ 10th Power, and with me today is Sandra Thompson of the NAACP of York City or York County?
County. Hi, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us also. I know you have a full schedule. I'm so happy to have you here. I know you're a busy woman. You're also an attorney at law, criminal lawyer, divorce lawyer. You cover
Not
all the
divorce,
bases.
family, criminal, civil rights, but the only family I don't do is divorce.
Okay, I got
Yes.
you. Thank you for correcting me. Let's jump right into it. Now, first of all, I wanted to congratulate you on your nomination for Outstanding Individual within an organization on the Downtown First Awards in York. Congratulations on your nomination.
Thank you. That was even surprising to me that they said I was even nominated, so I appreciate the community.
I saw that you were involved with a conversation, for lack of a better term, in the current state of Black America.
Yes, was that the GAL one? There's a couple of conversations I had about that.
Well, can you just share with us your opinion and give us your feedback on how you feel where Black America stands right now?
Well, this is a new revolution. This is, I hope, an awakening. On the one hand, it's an awakening, but on the other hand, we still have people in Black America, because we are diverse and of opinion as well, sort of trying to stop the revolution, trying to keep us complacent, trying to keep us in the same place because this current place benefits them personally, or maybe they're afraid or don't understand what true freedom would mean. And true freedom means that we take it into our own hands. So that's what we need to do. That's what we want to do. And the first and foremost is we want to be able to plan a party, plan the menu, invite people, and come and attend. So we want to be involved in all stages that make decisions for Black America.
Why do you think white America has such a problem when we finally take the stand that they want us to take? They get mad and they claim that we're lazy, but then when we take a stand and we push our agenda forward, they have a problem with that also. Why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, we know that the lazy is a falsity. We know that. We know that from well before slavery. We know that we built civilizations. We created things that are still being used in America today. We solve problems that, again, traffic lights, other lights that are still being used today. We picked the cotton. We raised their children. We breastfed their children. So we know really lazy is not within a description of our people. We definitely understand that. But at the same time, I don't root all white America together. Because even during those times, there was always somebody in white America that was standing with us and trying to speak up with us, trying to make sure that we were considered equal to them as human beings. Even we were discounted as human beings or full human beings by the government. There were abolitionists. There were people who spoke against the government. So that is historical as well. So we continue to have, we have historically had white allies. So there were people, from the 60s to the bus rides to all of those. White people have stood with us and died with us as well. So, it is those, and again, that's what I said earlier, is that there still were Black people who stood in the gap to prevent us from progressing, unfortunately, historically. So on both sides, we've had people for and against us of our own race or other races. But so for those white people, or white America that still looks at us through the eyes of white supremacy, um, you know, I think to some degree, and some have spoken on it about mental illness. I would agree with that. That it is, unfortunately, where hurt people, where they have nothing more but to demean and belittle another. When we start, more and more, we're seeing more what they describe as Karens and Kevins. It's not decreasing, but it seems to be increasing. White people stopping black people or brown people from everyday living, and believing that they have that authority to do so. Since it's been so highly publicized, I can do nothing more than, or less than, equating it to mental illness. Some degree of attention seeking at this point. It's really hard to describe why it continues. But although it continues, although there are some that still would like to keep us in our place and prevent us from being in what they deem as white spaces, we have to continue to push forward. And as I always say, we push forward past, again, the black and brown gatekeepers that would still keep us out. Yes. Well, yes. Unfortunately, that was this institutional racism. It died hard. We're carving out. Unfortunately, we just had our president the other day sort of give dog whistles that he rolled back some Obama era protections and made statements that suburbia, and we're suburbia, but quote unquote white people, can feel comfortable and safe, that urban people, and who are urban considered, people of color, poor people, will not be invading their space. So it would have less opportunity to move out to suburbia. So as long as we continue to have people in power espouse those positions, then we're going to continue to have people empowered to continue their racism, their negativity, their attacks. But again, that is something that we have to continue to push against. We have to continue to say that we belong here, and satisfy what we need to do to get to those points. And as a community, what we also need to do differently is start to help each other get there.
Right.
Many other communities, they build upon each other. Families help each other. The communities help each other. And we need to start turning to each other for assistance more so, and lifting each other up.
We have Ben Carson as the head of housing and urban development. It seems like we should be putting more pressure on him given the situation with housing. It just seems like there's not enough pressure going on with him. Why aren't we not going at him a little bit more?
When you say him, are you saying Trump again?
As
What did you say?
Ben Carson, from the leader of the housing and urban development.
Yes, one of those gatekeepers that I speak of. Again, sometimes, to me, really, he's a figurehead. So he is a talking head. So he's just someone who happens to be in that position, not necessarily a decision maker. But yes, there's from York Housing Authority locally. There are elected officials. So everybody who contributes to one, funding these programs, to everyone who are administrators of these programs, at the local, the county, the state levels, those are the people that make those direct decisions, and even going up to right now, we have a congressional race. Those are the people who are in our communities that we need to continue to raise our voices to.
Agreed, agreed. With
Because then that's something that actually trickles up. Now, if it's legislation, it's legislation. So, but it's more so of the application of the legislation, and that's why again, voting is important, because from Congress to the president.
now we have I've been lucky enough to be an essential employee, and I just recently purchased my home. So being an essential employee, being able to pay my mortgage is very important to me. But I see there's a thing that's out there called rent relief. Can you share that with our audience as well, that we have here in York?
Community, that was part of the housing program. Also, for our programs, they are on the York NAACP Facebook page. So anybody can like our page and scroll down it, and then you will be able to see those programs, and you would be able to watch it even if you missed it. But CPC and others believe that, I know a CPC, I forget whether not what other organization it was, but they received millions of dollars. The requirement is for two parts, the tenant as well as the landlord, to apply for the rental assistance. In general, there may be multiple programs, but one of the programs I specifically remember is if there is rent due of $750 or more, they can apply for rental assistance, and the what would be financed is $750. So it could be recommended that the tenant pay off all past due rents down to $750 and then apply, because the landlord must agree to waive all rent over $750
Okay.
to qualify for that program. Now, although they are holding millions of dollars currently, at that time of the program, they said they had not expended, they had not released any funds. So the tenants who were applying, they were explaining, did not submit complete applications. So we at NAACP, we can help those who need more assistance with filling out the application. We can also help to advocate between them and CPC, Community Progress Council. But if the landlord chooses not to forgive the $750, again, that's why it's recommended to the tenant to pay it down to $750, or at least ask the landlord to contact CPC, because CPC may have alternative financial programs that the landlord may be interested in, or may help the landlord subsidize the amounts over $750.
Now, for those, let me reiterate, she mentioned to go to the York NAACP Facebook webpage, that's YORK, like in New York, and check that out. That's where I checked it out. You had brought up voting and its importance earlier, and we both know that the Voting Rights Act is sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk now, going on its fourth or fifth month. Why in the first place would we even need a Voting Rights Act if every man is created equally? Why do we even need a Voting Rights Act at this point?
Unfortunately, although that we do know by God that we're all created equal, we know
Right.
that. By Constitution, with some of the amendments, we now, or at least, it's arguable how it was originally interpreted, is definitely arguable. But of, although it said all men are created equal, one, did it include women?
Right.
Two, did it include people of color?
Right.
So that's highly debated, even though, all, there's nothing really true at all. But since the history of the United States of America is what it is, Trump would say it is what it is. Um, since it is what it is, we had to have these amendments. We had to have these additional acts. We had to march, fight. Unfortunately, some sacrificed their lives um, to achieve these rights. And Pennsylvania is often confused, or people in Pennsylvania often confuse their rights to vote as a felon with Texas or Florida, which I believe in Florida they just ran, or was it Georgia? They just gained rights as a former convicted felon.
They gained it in Florida, and then the
Yeah, that's what
governor,
I
the
thought.
Republican governor, took some of that back. So it's
Well,
still being debated as this at this point.
that's exactly why voting is important. We need to get all of those officials out of office. But anyway, what I don't know if I lost my train of thought. So yeah, so we have to continue to fight for these rights. We have to continue to stand for it. And this is why, honestly, through the art community, the Black community, it's so upsetting to hear people who claim to be woke to speak about voting doesn't matter. I mean, you're killing us. What are you doing? I
I've
don't
had this
understand that.
argument so
You
many
know?
times with so many people that I call friends, still my friends, and I respect their opinion, but I just can't get past why they feel like their vote doesn't matter, and to them, it's I guess the argument is when you're voting for the president, and you have this electoral college thing, their vote doesn't matter. If you actually feel that way, then my argument would be, why don't you vote for your mayors, vote for your governors? There's no electoral college in that manner. But for me, it's more personal. Like you said, there's too many people who have died and fought for me to have this right, for me to have this privilege. And for that reason alone, I'm going to vote.
And that's right. And saying your vote doesn't matter, even for that particular reason, is too simplistic. So if that's all you're saying in the community and you are a respected person in the community, all the young people hear is my vote doesn't matter. That person may know a lot about the electoral college, or other things of politics, the background deals, and all those things which are true. But it's too simplistic to say your vote doesn't matter, and therefore to seemingly encourage people not to get involved, to not even to register, to not vote. Because then what you are is you've created a self-defeating prophecy. You've made sure your voice, your vote was silenced. You made sure it didn't matter.
And you're
And
also
and
part of the problem that we
unfortunately,
have out here.
um, yeah, the more of us who believe the same, or say you take the example of the electoral college, then you raise candidates who want to put forth amendments to disband it, to overturn it. You raise candidates to do so. You run those candidates. You support those candidates financially and with your vote, but you cannot sit on your behind saying voting doesn't matter. You
Amen.
just can't simply do that.
Amen. I wanted to shift to police reform and defunding the police. I know the Trump narrative would like to push out there, and certain Republicans would like us to believe that when we say defund, we mean take all the money away from that goes to the police departments. And we're in no way saying that. That's just the narrative he wanted to flip. Can you let our people know what it is as far as police reform and defunding, if that agenda is even being pushed in York, PA?
Well, it is for NAACP as a whole, a national organization. Yes, they speak about defunding police. There are multiple organizations that speak about defunding police. So you must know what is the stance of that individual organization. There are some organizations that say we mean exactly what, well, they mean abolish. So there are some that call for abolishing the police department. And then the NAACP meaning of defunding police is, and I give an example of some people say reform the police. So reform means to create as it was. It was formed in one way and you recreate it. I think it's more of a transform. The police department or policing as a whole is known and thought to be sort of an evolvement of the slave patrols. So having police evolving from the slave patrols, they really had one goal, really, and that was to catch Black people and to keep them in their place. So where police and modern day police have that same mentality that they are to catch, incarcerate, and to keep Black and brown people in their place, it needs to be transformed. It needs to be demilitarized. So you don't need all the tanks busting into somebody's home. You do not need to go in with a militaristic mindset because you got a tip that somebody is selling drugs or has in their car or in their home or on their person, to where immediately on some tip, you are looking at that person as a danger. And that's all you know is some tip. When you have a different mindset of investigation, then I think you respect life more because you don't, again, you say, I'm not looking at this person as a criminal. I look at him or her as somebody accused that I don't know if they did it or not. So let me check it out. Versus looking at someone as an automatic criminal. So therefore, you go in with guns blazing. So we need to transform those thoughts. So through re-education of police, better education of police, because many will say that they didn't receive certain sensitivity trainings.
Right.
Also, we need to stop calling police, and this is community as well. We need to stop thinking that police are the end all be all. And I give an example often because it's occurred knowingly in New York as a historical example where a mother didn't know how to handle her mentally ill son, called police for intervention, and the police came and shot him.
Wow.
Now that story is actually one that has been repeated several times. So we need to put more money into social services. We need to put more money into mental health. We need to put more money into education. We need to put more money into youth activities in these community buildings that remain vacant. Put more money into nets and kickballs and dodgeballs and camps, any of those things. Rental assistance.
Again, we're not saying to just completely shut down the police. We're saying take that money and use it and resource it in other directions. We don't need the police to actually police those that are mentally ill. We need social workers to police those people, basically.
Well, if you put more money into those things, you would need police less.
Right.
If you solve the underlying issues for addictions and poverty, it often leads people to commit crimes, then again, you would need police less.
Amen.
So does that mean if the police will not lose their jobs? It means they may. It means some police may lose their job. Some police may lose their seniority. If you don't need them as much, you don't need those positions.
Right.
You don't need the prisons.
Right.
You don't need to build more. You don't need as many prison guards. So where people are concerned about their job security, I'm not here to give them job security. You know, we should be working as a society to work police out of business, to
Amen.
work prisons and prison guards out of business. That's what we should be working toward as a society, and that's what we should be proud of doing.
I couldn't agree with you more. I know you got a hot call that's coming to you soon. I can't thank you enough for the time that you were able to give us here at the QI podcast. I would like to bring you back at a later date for another interview where you could give us more of the positive feedback that you've given us today. And Ms. Thompson, just thank you so much for joining us here at the QI podcast. And that'll do it for this episode of the QI podcast. I'd like to again thank our special guest, Ms. Sandra Thompson of the York NAACP. I am your host, DJ 10th Power. For your feedback, you can email us at therealqipodcast@gmail.com. You can hit me up at Twitter and Instagram at the QI Podcast. And I'll see you on our next episode where we'll have another special guest. This is DJ 10th Power signing off in the Lion's Den. Peace.